I believe we have, um, I see Ricardo on the attendee list, so hopefully,
Yes, I'm going to bring him up. I also need to make a quick computer switch once we begin, so if you would give me just one moment.
okay, sounds good. Let us know
And
when you're ready.
I will. Member Sanchez, I promoted you to a panelist. If we could do a quick microphone check and a camera check.
Yeah, I'm here. And let me see. We start the video. I think you can see me now, right?
We will. And it takes a second to come through. We can see you. Thank you.
Okay. Is this going to be the first part an audio, or is it just a video, visual also?
I believe it's audio until we get to the petitioner hearings.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
And if you'll allow me one brief moment, I will flip my computer connections over and I'll be right back. President O, this is the moderator. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, apparently I'm having audio issues on the one computer, so I'm going to remain connected by two computers. I'm going to begin the recording and then the floor will be yours.
All right, thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to the June 17, 2021 board meeting. My name is Sung Oh, president of the board. Before we convene, I would like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law, where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted. The protection of the public shall be paramount. This meeting is being conducted consistent with the provisions of Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-29-20. Participants watching the webcast will only be able to observe the meeting. Anyone interested in participating in the meeting must join the WebEx meeting. Information and instructions are posted on our website. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allot 2 minutes to each individual providing comments. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting and ensure the board has the opportunity to complete its necessary business, including consideration of petitions as included on the meeting agenda. I appreciate everyone's understanding and patience as we navigate this meeting format. Before we get started, I would like to ask the meeting moderator to provide general instructions. Moderator?
Good morning, this is the moderator. For public comment today, we will be utilizing the question and answer feature within WebEx. To locate the access to that feature, when the president calls for public comment, I will announce that the Q&A panel is open. You'll be looking for the Q&A icon to appear on your screen. It will look like a question mark inside of a square. If you click on that icon, you'll be able to type in the text box in the ask field and then submit that to all panelists. Again, there will be time limit for public comments, and I will be providing a reminder before time expires. Once time has expired, I will announce that your time has expired, mute your microphone, and move on to the next commenter. And we will be taking comments in the order that they are received. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. During our meeting today, the board will consider petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modifications of penalty. Consistent with the provisions of Business and Professions Code 4309C and the board's policy, should a quorum of the board not be maintained during the petition hearings, the hearings will proceed with a committee of the board sitting with the administrative law judge. Following the hearings, members will convene in closed session after deliberating on all the open session items except adjournment. Due to technological limitations, adjournment will not be broadcast. Adjournment will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed. I would now like to take a roll call and establish a quorum. Members, as I call your name, please remember to open your line before speaking. Maria Serpa?
Here, present.
Jik Patel? Shara Butler?
Here.
Shirley Kim?
Here.
Ricardo Sanchez?
Here.
Jason Weiss?
Good morning, President O.
Good morning, Jason, and I am here. So with a quorum being established, the board will now enter.
Oh, this is Debbie. You forgot me.
Oh, sorry, Debbie. Debbie Veal.
Here.
Sorry, Debbie. With a quorum being established, the board will now entertain any public comments for items not on the agenda. To facilitate this meeting, this portion of the meeting, as I previously announced, the meeting moderator will open up the line for individuals to provide public comment. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. As we open the lines, I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will survey members to determine if any members have preference for items be placed on a future agenda. Moderator, please open the line for public comments.
This is the moderator. I've opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment for items not on today's agenda, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to all panelists. Our first comment comes from Elizabeth Huber. Elizabeth, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to comment on the fact that some physicians and also pharmacists are being prevented from dispensing therapeutics for the treatment of COVID-19. I want to draw your attention to 3 key points. Firstly, several of the therapeutic drugs presented as potential treatments for COVID have been on the market for decades. Hydroxychloroquine since 1955, ivermectin since 1981, and budesonide since 2006. All of these have been used to treat a variety of illnesses until now without any mention as to their potential harmfulness or toxicity when properly prescribed by a physician. Secondly, I'd like to draw your attention to the website hcqmeta.com that presents meta-analyzed data for potential treatments of COVID-19. A meta-analysis of 257 peer-reviewed published articles on hydroxychloroquine shows an effectiveness of 100% for early treatment and 70% for late treatment. The p-value for these studies is 1 in 698 trillion, meaning that it is statistically impossible for these results to be invalid or due only to chance. A meta-analysis of 59 peer-reviewed published articles on ivermectin indicates 95% effectiveness regardless of whether treatment was done early or late. The p-value for these studies is 1 in 17 trillion, meaning that it is statistically impossible for these results to be invalid or due only to chance. Lastly, the Swiss Policy Research Institute website recommends medications currently used for COVID-19 treatment in Switzerland, quite possibly one of the best countries in the world for medical care. They recommend a combination of ivermectin, vitamin D, zinc, and aspirin. The bottom line is that doctors should not be prevented from treating patients with these therapeutics, and pharmacists should not be threatened to lose their licenses for dispensing these medications under a doctor's prescription. Also, just want to say I am a faculty member at a university. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next comment comes from Johnny V. Johnny, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Johnny, and I'm a 36-year-old male resident of California. I would like to address the board about an issue. Unfortunately, I don't have as much data as Elizabeth does, but I can give you my personal anecdotes and my sort of my situation. So I have secondary hypogonadism and require both exogenous testosterone and compounded HCG for treatment. And I've been treated through those two for about 4 years now. And recently it's come to my attention that the California State Board of Pharmacy has decided to disapprove the access to compounded HCG to California residents. I don't know the exact reason why that's happening, but this new rule affects me greatly as it hinders my ability to treat my condition, which, if not treated, will have severe side effects. And I'm not aware of any other way to access the HCG on my own. So I wanted to bring this to the board's attention and bring an awareness to it that many folks in California need access to compounded HCG. And I would like to, whenever it's possible, understand why this is happening, but also what we can do about it. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments.
Our next commenter is Sandra Martinez. Sandra, your line is open and you will also have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here because of restrictions being placed on pharmacists to fill medications off-label for COVID patients. Tens of thousands of scientists, doctors, virologists, and vaccine experts, including Dr. Yeadon, Pfizer's former VP and chief scientist, and Dr. Vanden Bosch, who worked for Gavi and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, have put their lives and career on the line. They warn that this fall we will very likely have mass casualties due to antibody-dependent enhancement induced by the COVID vaccines. The good news is that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, two very old and widely used medications, safely and effectively not only treat COVID, cytokine storm, and the blood disorders that accompany COVID, but also treat problems related to the COVID vaccines and antibody-dependent enhancement. There is a plethora of data and studies to support this. Last year, over 50,000 California lives were lost because these medicines were restricted. Don't let that continue into the fall and winter. You are tasked with a very important decision. Do you continue to restrict these medications and condemn thousands more Californians to prolonged illness and needless death? Or do you rescind the restrictions and save thousands of lives? In the interest of the public, don't make one more person needlessly die. Don't be a part of contributory manslaughter and malfeasance. Rescind these restrictions and save lives. It's as simple as that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Our next comment comes from Samuel Plantowski. Samuel, I see you logged in twice. I'm going to try one of your connections. I've unmuted you. If you can speak, and let's make sure we don't have feedback.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you. You will have 2 minutes.
Meta-analyses support the use of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin as a beneficial treatment protocol. Denial or interference by an outside agency of such a treatment options not only waste the time of doctors and licensed professionals by having them wade through bureaucratic or administrative battles, but it also places the well-being of patients at risk. The mRNA emergency use authorization vaccines will likely place many at risk again through pathogenic priming from the spike proteins. Those people may also benefit from the same treatment protocols. As such, it is imperative that you release the yoke from medical professionals, that is, let them treat patients with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, as they're able to do with many other pharmaceutical interventions without any issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
And with that, I'm not seeing any other requests for comment. Would you like me to close?
Yes, please. Members, having received public comments, I'll now ask if anyone would like to include any item on a future agenda. Again, please remember to open your line before speaking.
Song, this is Debbie. And I think, hello. And I think based on the comment we received, we need to look into the restriction we currently have on ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. I think maybe you can do that with the executive officer and determine if it needs to be addressed, and if so, is it, which committee? If the restriction needs to be revised, or if there's an education barrier here, and perhaps they are available, but there's a misunderstanding, then maybe it goes to public ed to better communicate that.
Sure, Debbie. Should we make a motion to send it to public ed committee, or?
I'll make a motion that I send it to yourself and the executive officer to review the situation and determine the appropriate committee to handle the situation.
That sounds good. Any seconds?
This is Cheryl.
I'll second.
All right. Having received motion and second, I believe we have to open. And do we have to open it for public comment again?
Yes, there's a motion on the floor.
Yes.
All right. Having received motion and second, we'll open the line for public comments. Moderator, please open the line.
This is the moderator. We've again opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a comment on this item, please click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the panelists. And our first comment comes from Elizabeth Huber. Elizabeth, your line is open. You will have 2 minutes.
Okay, yes, hi. I just wanted to quickly say that I understand that it is perhaps allowed for doctors and pharmacists to provide these medications. However, they are being coerced and living under fear of actually prescribing these medications. So I'm talking about things like hydroxychloroquine, budesonide, as well as ivermectin. I myself had COVID in the recent past, and my doctor was afraid, literally afraid, to provide me with any of these medications. So I had to seek help elsewhere and go to a different doctor. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next comment comes from Sandra Martinez. Sandra, your line is open. You'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, thank you. I want to thank you for making a motion to put this on the agenda and investigate further. I do know pharmacists who are also afraid to fill these prescriptions when they come in. Their licenses have been covertly threatened, and their businesses. And as we know, 1 out of every 5 medications is prescribed off-label, and these 2 medications, and as well as budesonide and fluvoxamine, are very, very safe and are extremely successful in treating COVID and the various symptoms associated with it. So thank you again for your consideration. It's much appreciated and will save lots of lives.
Seeing no other requests, would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. With public comments, members, we're now ready to vote on the motion. Let's start with Maria. Maria Serpa.
Yes.
Cheryl Butler.
Yes.
Shirley Kim.
Yes.
Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Jason Wise.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Motion passes. All right. Any other motions, members? Hearing none, moving on to the next item. Agenda item number 3, discussion and consideration of board-approved regulation, Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 1717.5, related to automatic refill programs, and discussion and consideration of public comments received during the 15-day comment period on the proposed new modification to the regulation. Members, as you may recall, during our May 2021 meeting, in response to comments received by the Office of Administrative Law, the board voted to further amend the regulation text proposed in Section 1717.5 related to automatic refill programs. The proposed modifications were released for an additional 15-day comment period beginning May 28. The comment period ended June 12, 2021. As included in the meeting materials, the board received comments from 3 individuals, including the 3 individuals during the comment period. Staff have prepared recommendations in response to each of the comments, which are also provided along with the regulation text. In reviewing the comments, I agree with the recommendations of staff and would like to hear from other members. As part of your comments, I would also entertain a motion. Should others agree with the recommendations from staff, I note the meeting materials include a possible motion. Members, anyone interested in making a motion?
So this is Debbie. I'd like to I'm seeking clarification.
Sure.
I see that Mr. Geddes from Albertsons suggested an implementation date change from January 1st to July 1st, 2022.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I look at the, and I understand where he's coming from, and I want to be sensitive to that. But when I actually look at the proposed modified text, I keep looking through it. I don't see a date in here. So can you clarify? Is it in statute, or what causes that date of January 1st to be of concern?
Ann and Isla, can you
President-
clarify?
Yeah, President O, this is Ann. Thank you for the question. So the effective date is established through our communications with Office of Administrative Law, where we will establish the effective date through that process. And Danny Rogers, who is counsel from DCA that is working on this regulation for the board, is available to discuss that in further detail if you have additional questions.
So I guess, and my additional question just would be that I understand where he's coming from, since I do work for a larger company, and I know once this is done, then work can really begin to make sure all the changes are made to be compliant. And I would be a little, I'm sure in my own company it might be a little hand-wringing to make sure it's done by January. So is there anything we can do? And maybe this isn't the time because it's probably not part of this process. What can we do to try to ensure that there's that there's a fair date for implementation?
This is Ann again, and Danny, please chime in. Feel free to jump in as well. When the board initially adopted this regulation, you all had voted to delay the implementation to January 1 of 2022 to allow for that implementation timeframe. So following the board adoption, as you know, the regulation goes through various levels of review and approval by control agencies, one of which was the Office of Administrative Law, which is really kind of the last stop. It was during the review from the Office of Administrative Law that some comments were noted, and it was brought back to the board for clarification of the language. And that is why you all took the action that you did during the May meeting to reopen the comment period for 15 days to address the concerns identified by the Office of Administrative Law.
So if we wanted to extend this to July, the implementation to July, that would need to be part of the motion?
This is Ann again.
Hi there, this
Yes,
is Danny Rogers, Regulations. I'm sorry, Ann, I didn't mean to speak over you. Yes, that's true. We would need to take a vote on it, and that would also require us to file an amended Form 400 indicating a later effective date. We can also choose, just in case the board is considering that, it doesn't necessarily need to be July 1st of 2022. It could certainly be something in between there to accommodate both interests. That's really a matter of policy for the board.
So I'd like to make a motion. This is Debbie Beal speaking.
Okay, Debbie, go ahead.
I would like to accept the board's staff's recommended comment responses, adopting the regulation language as noticed for the 15-day comment period. However, in addition, request that the implementation date be modified to, I guess that means I'm not accepting the staff's comments. So let me say that again. So accept the board staff comments with the exception of the implementation date, which I'd like to have adjusted to July 1st, 2022. And therefore, in addition, adopt the regulation language as noticed, and delegate to the executive officer the authority to make technical or non-substantive changes as may be required by the Office of Administrative Law to complete the rulemaking process.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Any seconds?
I'll go ahead and second, Debbie. This is Ricardo Sanchez.
Thanks, Ricardo.
Okay, any other member comments? Okay, hearing none, we're now going to open the line for public comments. Moderator?
This is the moderator. We have opened the Q&A panel. If you'd like to make a public comment on this item, click on the Q&A icon on your screen. Type "I would like to make a comment" into the text field and submit that to the panelists. Our first comment comes from Lindsay Golahorn. Lindsay, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, President O and board members. This is Lindsay Golahorn with the California Retailers Association and the National Association of Chain Drugstores. And first, we thank the board and staff for your work on this regulation and for the discussion last month regarding the revisions in response to the questions from the Office of Administrative Law. We are not requesting any additional changes to the text of the regulation, but we do agree with board member Veal and would simply like to ask that the effective date be pushed out a few months until July 1st, 2022 to allow ample time for us to comply. Because additional changes have been made to the regulation in response to OAL's questions. We'd appreciate just a few extra months to ensure our systems are upgraded and ready for implementation once these regulations go into effect. And we think that will benefit patients because it will just give our members time to work to ensure the regulation can be implemented correctly and efficiently. So in sum, we just appreciate it if we could have a few more months to come into compliance. And thank you again.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Our next comment comes from Paige Talley. Paige, your line is open and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you, moderator. Good morning, board members. I just want to thank Ms. Veal for wanting to change, give us a little more time. You know, I represent long-term care pharmacies and pharmacists for the most part, and I understand that skilled nursing facilities are exempt from this, but lots of my members have assisted living facilities, and this is a huge headache for them. So a little more time would be absolutely fabulous. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paige.
And see no further requests. Would you like me to close the panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, with a motion and second and public comment received, I'll now take a roll call vote. Members, as a reminder, please open your line before voting. Let's start with Shara Butler.
Yes. Yes.
Shirley Kim.
Yes.
Ricardo Sanchez.
Yes.
Debbie Veal.
Yes.
Jason Wise.
Yes.
Maria Serpa.
Yes.
And I vote yes, motion passes. Thank you, members. I will now turn the meeting over to the Administrative Law Judge, Eric Sawyer, who will preside over the petition hearings. And Judge, are you ready, or should we take a quick break?
I am ready.
All right, members, anyone need a quick 10-minute break?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll reconvene at 9:40. We'll do 9:41 a.m. Thank you. Please remember to open your line. Let's start with Maria Serpa.
Here.
Cheryl Butler.
Here. Here.
Shirley Kim. Shirley. We'll come back for her. Ricardo Sanchez.
I'm here.
Debbie Veal.
I'm here.
And Jason Wise. Jason? 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 Okay, while we wait for Jason, members, just a reminder, this next session will be over a video. So if you could please turn on your videos. And still waiting on Shirley and Jason.
I'm here, Sal. I'm up.
Hi, Jason. Thank you. And I believe Shirley may have to leave in 15 minutes. But Shirley, are you here now? Okay. All right. Thank you, members. Thank you. And I will now turn the meeting over to the administrative law judge, Eric Sawyer, who will preside over the petition hearing. Judge, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, President O. Just so I'm clear, are all the board members who marked present earlier this morning, are they all here now for the hearing?
Yes, and one of the members may have to leave in the middle, which she will let you know.
Oh, that would be Ms. Kim?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, so she'll let us know when she leaves the meeting or the hearing?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. And I want to inquire, my understanding is the first matter the board would like heard is the matter involving Mr. Oduyale.
We don't have preference, so whatever that is easy for you or easy for the petitioners.
Okay. Okay. And let me check and see if the Deputy Attorney General is with us.
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. This is Deputy Attorney General Steve Pian.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Pian. Do you have a preference in terms of the order of the petitions?
I don't have a strong preference. I saw on the agenda that the order, that's just the order I was assuming, but actually I don't particularly care.
Okay. What I had was alphabetical order.
Oh, I see.
So let me inquire then, the matter of concerning Mr. Abolarar, is he with us?
This is the moderator. Yes, he is.
Okay.
Would you prefer to start with that case?
And I believe he has counsel, Mr. Weinberg, who I believe I saw earlier this morning. Is that so?
He did, and then he dropped off. So I believe he may be having some technical issues. So it might be best to start with another petitioner to allow him an opportunity to get reconnected.
Okay. You know what? I see on the screen they have Mr. Oduyale queued up, and I saw him in counsel on. So why don't we just do that one? Is that all right, Mr. Kuhn?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Oduyale, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. And Mr. Marks, can you hear me? Mr. Marks?
It looks like he dropped off.
Uh-oh.
He's still connected.
Oh, okay. I heard him earlier. Maybe he's just muted. Mr. Marks? If you're out there?
Yeah, I think he's muted.
You can unmute?
I just unmuted. Can you hear me, Your Honor?
I can hear you, Mr. Marks. Thank you. Do you have your, and I can see you now. Okay. Then why don't we proceed with this matter? For the record, we're on the record, and I'm calling the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Olubenga Solomon Oduyale. This matter is before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. It bears OAH case number 2021-060394. Today is June 17th, 2021. It is 9:46 a.m. This matter is being heard by a quorum of the Board of Pharmacy. My name is Eric Sawyer. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings. My office is in Los Angeles. This matter is being heard by video conference and telephonic conference in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. At this time, I'll ask the parties to identify themselves for the record, beginning with petitioner and counsel.
I am Lubenga Solomon Oduyale. Easy to call me Saul.
Good
And
morning,
I'm
Your
the
Honor,
petitioner.
members of the board, Mr. Payun. This is Ronald Marks, and I'm representing Mr. Odiali.
Thank you. And for the Attorney General's office?
Yes, good morning, Your Honor. Deputy Attorney General Steve Pian here on behalf of the people of the state of California.
All right, thank you. The board has the petition and all of the attached documents, and the board has reviewed it. Would anyone like to make an opening statement at this time? Mr. Pian?
Yes, Your Honor, I would just like to give a brief description of the case and also just flag a few things I think might be helpful to the board.
Okay, please proceed.
Your Honor, I'll just start with a brief description of the context of this case. So it goes back to 2006. The petitioner was first disciplined in 2006. That arose from incidents that happened in 2002 and 2004, one of which was possession of controlled substances, unlabeled controlled substances in his vehicle, and he was pulled over. The other, I think, bears a little more relationship to the case that ended up leading to his revocation, which is that after a board inspection, it was determined that the petitioner was failing to keep accurate and complete records on controlled substances. So in 2006, that initial matter led to the petitioner being placed on probation for 3 years. He completed that probation in 2009. In 2010, the next year, he applied for a pharmacy permit as a co-owner and president, and also the proposed pharmacist in charge of a pharmacy. That application was denied based on the prior discipline in 2006. He appealed, and that led to a statement of issues hearing. That statement of issues hearing led to a decision in 2011, which placed the pharmacy permit on probationary permit for 35 months. It was during that probationary period that in a few inspections were held. Ultimately, those inspections led to the filing of the accusation that led to the revocation of the petitioner's license. And I know it's all there. We submitted quite a bit of documents, so I'll just briefly go over the conduct we're talking about. Most of them arise from an inspections by the board. Again, a lot of them relate to improper record keeping. The first cause was failure to maintain proper records for acquisition and disposition of controlled substance, hydrocodone, acetaminophen. Also, improper deviation from prescriptions, unauthorized deviation from prescriptions, filling prescriptions that were not on the proper forms for controlled substances, not verifying the agent who was authorizing oral prescriptions. And then what I think is a bit more significant, I wanted to flag the attention to, is that I think it was the sixth cause for discipline was through the course of that investigation, the petitioner provided documents that were by way of explanation and purportedly exculpatory. If you read the decision, that cause for discipline was upheld to the extent that it was determined by clear and convincing evidence that the petitioner had submitted falsified, modified documents, basically in an effort to cover up some of the underlying violations. Finally, there were 3 causes for discipline related to a separate incident in which petitioner, while working at a hospital, modified the expiration date on oxytocin, a medicine that's used in hospitals on women who are in labor, generally, to induce labor. So he took 5 bags of oxytocin and they were set to expire on a certain date. They had expired. He modified on his own without authorization to a later date. Led to gross negligence, cause for discipline that was upheld, and other unprofessional conduct, causes for discipline. So that's the universe of violations that led to the discipline, and ultimately the petitioner's license was revoked in 2015. And just by way of explanation, again, the final decision that's contained in the materials that have been submitted show a decision dated 2017. That's only because subsequent appeals, a repetition, it was brought back for further consideration. But the 2017 decision is the operative, the final decision, and it's entitled Decision After Reconsideration and After Remand. But to be clear, the petitioner's license has been revoked since August 2015. Just briefly, the other documents, Your Honor, that have been submitted. Petitioner has submitted documents for 48 hours of CE, continuing education, that were taken from November of 2018 to November of 2020. He has also submitted 11 letters of recommendation, 7 of which were verified. I will note that only one of the verified letters is from a licensee of the board. So technically under Business and Professions Code 4309, subsection B, a petitioner is required to submit at least 2 verified letters of recommendation from licensees of the board. That's all I have by way of, yes.
Go ahead.
That's all I have by way of opening. I wanted to go ahead and seek to, I don't know how Your Honor would like to proceed on this, but the documents that we ended up having to file with the request to set with OAH, if I thought it might be most convenient to just mark those collectively as Exhibit 1 and ask that they be marked and admitted into evidence.
Good idea.
Thank you, and I'll make that request, Your Honor.
Okay, the petition and attached items are marked for identification as Exhibit 1. Mr. Marks, any objection to that being admitted into the record?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, it is so admitted. Anything further, Mr. Pion?
No, I'll just reserve the right to ask the petitioner some questions if he potentially chooses not to testify, which I anticipate he will.
Okay, understood. Thank you. I want to ask the moderator a question. Madam Moderator? Are you with us? Perhaps not. All right. Okay, Mr. Marks, you may now present petitioner's case. Would you like to make an opening statement?
Thank you, yes. Good morning, Your Honor, members of the board, and Mr. Payun. Just a few brief comments. As I recall, and I know Mr. Payun mentioned that back in 2003, Mr. Odiali was pulled over for possession of controlled substances. My clear recollection was that that allegation in that case was dismissed because it was established that he was delivering the patients lawfully to patients of the pharmacy. Let me just give you a little bit of an opening, not in any great detail, but Mr. Odiali, who as he indicated, goes by Saul, I may be referring to him as Saul. First of all, we appreciate the opportunity to present his petition to the board this morning. In summary, Mr. Odiali's license was revoked in August 10th, 2015. So he was eligible to petition for reinstatement after 3 years. He submitted his petition for reinstatement on February 18th, 2020. So he has been awaiting this hearing for 16 months now. I sincerely believe that you will find from Mr. Odiali's testimony and letters submitted on his behalf that reinstatement is eminently warranted, and Mr. Odiali will not impose any risk to the public upon reinstatement. If acceptable at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Odiali to testify, Your Honor.
Yes, I'm going to swear him in. So, Mr. Oduyale, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California that in this hearing you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, please state and spell your name.
Olubenga Solomon Oduyale, aka Sol, S-O-L. Spelling O-L-U-G-B-E-N-G-A. And Solomon is S-O-L-O-M-O-N. My last name spelled O-D-U-Y-A-L-E.
Thank you. When you're ready, Mr. Marks.
Thank you, Your Honor. Saul, when did you get your license as a pharmacist?
1989.
And where did you get your pharmacist degree?
North Dakota State University in Fargo, North Dakota.
Fargo, North Dakota?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the board what pharmacist positions you've held?
I've been an intern pharmacist. I've been, therefore, became a registered pharmacist and in the state of Illinois originally, and then I transferred my license to the state of Arizona, and subsequent to that, I transferred to the state of California in around 1989. The registration I was talking about was in California in 1989. I was originally registered first time in the state of Illinois in 1980.
So then can you tell us how long you've actually practiced pharmacy in the United States?
Before the revocation of my license, I practiced for about 35 plus years.
Did you practice in Illinois?
I practiced in Illinois, Arizona, and California.
Okay. The day of your revocation, your license in California was August 10th, 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also owned a pharmacy, which was placed on probation in the board's decision, correct?
Yes.
And when you owned your pharmacy, were you also working full-time at a hospital?
Yes.
And where was that hospital?
Pioneers Memorial Hospital in Brawley, California.
And what days and hours were you working at the hospital?
I worked from about 5 p.m. to like 1 or 2 a.m. And then I worked, which is Monday through Friday, and then I work Saturday, Sunday, 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. The word about is that the pharmacy may not close if there is a pending orders or depending on the workload. So it is not exact as to when you leave.
So it was 7-day-a-week job?
Yes.
And this was the time that you owned your pharmacy?
Yes.
Was this the first pharmacy you've ever owned?
Yes.
And in retrospect, you realize you should not have owned a pharmacy and worked a full-time job somewhere else?
Yes.
And almost all the allegations that resulted in the loss of your license were based on an inspection by a board inspector in January 2013 at the pharmacy, correct?
Yes.
In 2014, over a year later, did the DEA perform a physical inspection of the pharmacy?
Yes.
And was the pharmacy board inspector there during the DEA inspection?
Yes.
And based upon that inspection, did you receive a correction notice from the DEA?
Yes.
What did they say you needed to correct?
They just say I need to correct the method of filing the receipts of the controlled substances,
And
which I did.
So? Okay. Was your DEA certificate ever revoked or put on probation after its inspection of the pharmacy in 2014?
Absolutely no.
And so how long did you have the pharmacy after the DEA inspection?
Have the pharmacy until about October 2017.
At that time, did you decide to close the pharmacy?
Yes.
Okay. While the pharmacy was on probation, did the pharmacy have regular probation inspections?
Yes.
And what were the results?
Yes.
What were the results of the inspections by the pharmacy board up until 2017?
There were corrective actions, and there was some of the corrective actions were false and led to us being present at a hearing by
I'm not following. You
represented me.
You said that after the DEA inspection, there were pharmacy board inspections, correct?
Yes.
I'm asking you, how did those inspections turn out after the DEA inspections when the pharmacy board inspector came in to inspect the pharmacy?
Good.
Okay. So why did you decide to close the pharmacy? Well, put it this way. Was that a voluntary decision to close the pharmacy? It wasn't revoked. You just decided to close the pharmacy in October 2017?
It was a voluntary decision.
Okay. So let me ask you, Saul, what did you learn from the decision revoking your license and placing your pharmacy on probation?
I learned that maybe due to my excessive work, some mistakes were made, and I have learned from that mistakes, and I have also decided not to work 2 jobs consecutively as a result, and I believe that I do not pose a danger to public safety.
Okay. And since your license was revoked, what have you done to maintain your knowledge of pharmacy and any new laws or developments?
I've been conversant with reading a lot of pharmacy journals, some of which I get continuing education credits for, which I submitted. Some are through interactive behavior with other pharmacies and asking them what's going on and how things are going. And I've been reading some of the journals from the pharmacy board itself called the scripts, and I've been following all the different regulatory actions that are either pending or have been activated and suspended, activated, and stuff like that.
Do you read books like Fred Weissman's book at USC on new laws, procedures?
Yes, that is a pharmacy law book summary from Dr. Wiseman from the University of Southern California College of Pharmacy in Los Angeles.
Okay. And you read the script?
Yes. The script is a publication of the Board of Pharmacy, and I think it comes out every 3 months.
I see. How many CE courses have you taken since your revocation? Can you give us an estimate?
Probably more than the one I submitted, because the one I submitted is over a year old now, and I have since completed more since then. I think it in total, probably, Jesus Christ, I couldn't give the exact number, but the board has that, and they have access to check that with the ACPE monitoring organization.
But can you estimate how many?
We cannot fictitiously create that.
I know, but can you estimate how many hours, say, for example, you've taken other than what you've submitted to the board, perhaps that you've taken since the records were submitted to the board in connection with your petition?
Since the petition was submitted, I have completed probably within the last year about 20 hours.
When you say within the last year, because that's around when your petition was submitted back in.
We submitted the petition right around March last year.
Yeah. Okay. So in the last about a year, you've taken about 20 more hours?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You submitted a letter from Abraham Korenga.
Yes.
That's, I'll spell it for the record, Your Honor, Kuranga, a pastor who states that he has known you since the early 70s, and you have always told him that you're in this world to help others. Is that true, what he said, that you believe you're in this world to help others?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know Pastor Kuranga?
We both went to Adventist Seminary College in Nigeria, where I thought maybe my call was to be a pastor, but I realized that my call was to go into science, and therefore I transferred to United States to complete my baccalaureate degree in biology and chemistry and medical technology at Northwest Missouri State University, which I completed and graduated in 1976.
Yeah. Did you get a degree?
Yes.
What degree did you get?
I got a Bachelor of Science, got multiple degrees in zoology, biology, and chemistry, and medical laboratory technology. But then I went to graduate school in North Dakota, at which time I changed my mind. I went to pharmacy there.
You changed your mind and went into pharmacy? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask Pastor Karonga whether he had verified his letter with Mr. Flores at the board?
Yes.
What did he tell you?
He said he talked to Mr. Flores.
Okay. Did he, or do you donate to your church?
I constantly do.
Can you explain?
I donate to the Seventh-day Adventist cause, building schools for the low indigents and supporting their university in Africa, and also in the community where I live, I support the Little League generation playing baseball, and I donate water every time there's a football game at the local high school. Due to budget cuts, the school was not able to provide water to the players, and I always take truckload of water to them, and also participate in public meetings to see what is going on.
Okay, you're getting a little ahead of me. Maybe we'll cover that a little bit later in more detail, the public meetings and more other things. But
okay.
Do you donate churches to other countries too?
Yeah, Nigeria.
Churches in Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
Been doing that all my life.
Okay. All right. And you submitted a recommendation letter from Morris Reisen, R-E-I-S-I-N,
yes,
stating that you've been a citizen of the Calexico community for 34 years and have provided generous support for the Baseball Little League and other material contributions.
Yes.
Who is Morris Reisen?
Morris Reisen is director, one of the directors of the Little League, and he's also an ex-council member of the Calexico City Council.
Okay. What support and contributions do you assume he's referring to? He said generous. Excuse me. He said generous support for the Baseball Little League and other material contributions. What do you assume?
Because those are the jerseys and the cap.
I'm sorry. I'm asking you, what do you assume he means by general support for the Baseball Little League and other material contributions? What do you do in that regard?
Well, we give them money because they need money to operate, pay the coaches, most of whom are volunteers, but they pay them minimum or whatever they agree to do. And we also buy them jerseys to play, or baseball bats and balls.
And what do you contribute in their need for Little League materials?
Those are the caps and the uniform.
What do you do with? What do you do? What
I
about
give them money. I give them money.
Okay. I'm trying to bring this out for the board.
Mr. Marks, Judge Sawyer here. We're spending a lot of time on material that's in the petition and the attachments. I don't know if that's a productive use of time as opposed to hearing additional information or making your client available for questions from the board, etc. And there are 3 other petitions, so I want you to be a little mindful about the time we're consuming.
As I'm trying to do that, Your Honor, and what my purpose here is that these letters are a little bit vague about what they say are Saul's qualifications, and I'm just trying to bring those out, try to get a little bit more specific. But I know the letters speak for themselves, but there's more detail that I can bring out through Saul as to what they're referring to.
I think
move us back.
I try to keep the primary focus on rehabilitation, sense, license, discipline, etc. So go ahead.
Judge Sawyer, pardon the interruption. For the record, I will be stepping away.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor.
Okay, so for the record, Member Kim is leaving and therefore is disqualified from participating in deliberating in this matter. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Marks.
Pardon me, Your Honor, this is Eileen Smiley, Board Counsel, and I just want to state for the record that the Board is now proceeding pursuant to the authority under Business and Profession Code 4309C as a committee of the Board, and we will follow those procedures with respect to the decision.
Okay, I'm not following that. What does that mean exactly?
It just means, Your Honor, that pursuant to Section 4309, now that Shirley Kim has left, Member Kim, that we are proceeding as a committee of the Board because of quorum. And that's authorized under Business and Profession Code Section 4309C.
Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Marks.
All right, you saw you submitted a letter from Gilbert Campos, professor at Imperial Valley College, stating that you have provided scholarship money to students and that you volunteer in community fundraising activities. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, and how long have you been doing that?
I did that for 2 years.
Okay, since your license was revoked.
Yes.
And what scholarship money do you provide to students?
There are students that don't fit into the general population of public education, and they go to private school, like maybe Seventh-day Adventist in elementary and secondary school, or the other school where they need rehabilitation.
You provide money for them to go to school?
Yes.
All right. And in a letter from Augustine Auditioda, Augustine who identifies as a PIC at Austin's Pharmacy in Blythe, California. He notes that he worked with you at Rite Aid and Payless Pharmacies and was impressed with your dedication to pharmacy and excellent knowledge of pharmacy. He doesn't say how many years you worked with him. How many years did you work with Mr. Iota?
About 5 years.
Okay. And where did you work with him?
Blight, California.
Okay. And he says that you worked at Rite Aid and Payless pharmacies. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And then you submitted a letter from Kulbar Pumay, Kulbir Pumay,
Yes.
clinical laboratory scientist who states that he worked for the state of California for over 10 years. He writes he worked with you at Calexico Hospital and that when it suffered financial difficulties, you continued to work there for a year without pay. He also praises patient care at the hospital. How long did you work at Calexico Hospital?
About 5 years.
Did you work there without pay?
Yes.
For how long?
For 1 year. The last year I was there.
Why?
They have funding problems and eventually went bankrupt and closed the hospital.
So they couldn't pay you?
No, they didn't pay us up to today.
Okay. Then why did you work there? Why did you quit when they couldn't pay you?
I didn't quit for that reason. I quit because they shut the hospital down.
Why did you work there without pay, without quitting?
It is a very remote area of the California, and nobody wants to come here to work because of the extreme environmental temperature. And since I was already here, they asked me if I could work for them because they needed a pharmacist.
Okay.
And I did.
Okay. Did you work anywhere else with Mr. Pumay?
Yes. I worked with Mr. Pume at Sentinel State Prison for 3 years.
What were your duties at Sentinel State Prison?
I was a pharmacist there.
Okay. The letter from Mervat Kalada, Mervatkelada. She was the emergency room director at Calexico Hospital, and she states you were the only pharmacist at the hospital to remain on the staff without pay.
Yes.
You were the only one?
Yes.
And she says you have a wealth of medical knowledge. Have you consulted with Dr. Kalada?
Not since I lost my license.
When you did have your license, was that something you would do, is consult with Dr. Kalada on medical issues?
Yes, especially about formulary issues.
One more letter I want to address, Your Honor. In the packet submitted to the board is a letter from John Renison, who states that he is a former 3-time mayor of Calexico and is also on the board of supervisors for Imperial County. He says that he has observed you involved in community outreach and serving those most in need. What do you believe he's referring to about you've been serving people most in need?
This area is, we're almost in Mexico. We're 1 foot away from Mexico, separated by the fence, the so-called Donald Trump fence. And here we are full of agricultural workers, indigents, and 95% of them have medical, and we usually have to go beyond the call of duty to get prior authorization from some of their medicines, rather than rejecting them.
Okay. If your license is restored, do you plan to keep up with your charitable and community involvements?
Yes.
Is there anything more you plan to do as a pharmacist regarding your community involvement if your license is reinstated?
I will keep to the rules of pharmacy and keep on with my activities of continuing education and seminars. And I'm also a member of the California Pharmacists Association.
If your license is reinstated, where do you plan to work?
I plan to remain in this area where there is indigent and low population of pharmacists that want to come here. And we have trouble getting healthcare providers in this area. So, including the prison, we have 3 prison systems within a geographical distance of 10 miles radius. And we have behavioral health services, and they always have a need for pharmacists. So I plan to approach all those agencies, including the prison, to see if they will give me work.
You worked at the prison before, as you mentioned, correct?
Yes.
Do you believe the state prison would employ you if your license is reinstated on probation?
Yes.
Why do you believe that?
When I talked to Mr. Pume, who is the director of the health sciences area of the clinic, and he told me they have openings, and if I would be kind enough to come and work for them, I said, yeah, but I have to get my license first.
Okay, and that's what you intend to do?
Yes.
Okay, so in any event, you plan to working in the Calexico area or with the prison?
Yes.
In the decision to revoke your license, you're ordered to pay $20,000 in costs to the board. Did you do so?
Yes.
And where did that money come from?
I borrowed it from my bank with collateral.
Is there anything else you would like to say to the members of the board?
I would like to express my gratitude to them for giving me a hearing, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope for a good outcome of their decision to give me the opportunity to continue the practice of pharmacy. And the only thing I may add is that we submitted the application more than 16 months ago, and some of the people that they said they couldn't reach were incorrect, because they told me they talked to Mr. Flores, and there's no way they could have known who they talked to without the name. So it's just that Mr. Flores contacted them too late, and Mr. Flores told a couple of them that they have fallen out of the window at that time, and that they are probably not going to be included in the paperwork they submitted. And one of the pharmacists, Ida Bleach, that wrote a letter of support that was not able to contact the board, said to us that she has been impacted with COVID and her house burned down, and she has suffered significant health loss and was unable to return calls.
Oh, just for explanation of the board, Your Honor. There's some in the packet. There was indication that some letter writers couldn't be contacted by Mr. Flores at the board, but we've contacted them, and I think they were contacted too late to be included in the report to the board. Okay, that's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marks. Mr. Pyun, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor, just a few.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Odiali, just a few questions here. I was looking over your petition and the attachment, and I wanted to ask you some questions about some of the statements there. Is it correct that you believe that the board should never have revoked your license in the first place?
Well, I cannot tell the board what to do, but I would prefer they have not revoked my license. And I think one of the decisions in the appeal process addressed that from Judge Anderson from the Superior Court of California in Central California.
Thank you. Do you believe that the conduct, the violations that led to the revocation of your license posed a danger to the public?
I don't believe so. I didn't kill anybody, and I didn't damage anybody's health. The oxytocin event that you brought up was an emergency situation, whereas it was approaching about 1 a.m. and I was delayed from leaving the pharmacy, and they have people in the obstetric and gynecologist department delivering babies, and the nurses panicked that they couldn't find oxytocin. So the only oxytocin I could find expired that same day. And I dispensed it to them. It didn't expire prior to that day. Just a technical issue.
Thank you. Let me see here. A quick question. You are no longer licensed to practice in Arizona, is that true?
I voluntarily give up my license there.
And why did you do so?
Because once your license is revoked in one state, you couldn't practice in another state.
So that's the same. I apologize. Go ahead.
It's just that it will trigger another prosecutory process, so I just give up my license.
I understand. Thank you. One of the letters you submitted was written by a licensed pharmacist named Philip Evans. Do you know who I'm referring to?
Paul Evans?
Phil Evans, yes.
No, Philip, sorry, Philip.
Is he the same Philip Evans who testified as an expert on your behalf at the administrative hearing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You know, going back to your petition and your narrative statement, you point out that all but one violation arose from an inspection conducted by Christina Costa. I was trying to understand why you made that statement or what you meant to convey by that statement.
What statement is that?
You said that all but one of the allegations that arose, that gave rise to your discipline arose from an inspection conducted by Christina Costa.
Well, the inspections were rather, in my opinion, overreach in terms of Mrs. Acosta bringing up false allegations when she know they were not true. One of which was me buying from unlicensed location that has license from the Board of Pharmacy in California. And my counsel have to, she wouldn't listen to me, and my counsel have to interject to say, look, and actually I believe my counsel called the executive director that this is improper, because this is a story that is made up. I didn't buy medicine from unlicensed wholesaler at all. And Mrs. Acosta also, when she came with the DEA, I believe all inspectors that come to the pharmacies have to identify themselves to the pharmacist. She refused to identify herself.
Okay, thank you. And Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll open up to questions of the board members. If any have questions, I'll begin with President O. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Judge. I just have a couple questions for Mr. Oduale. What work did you do after your license was revoked? How did you make your life? Yeah.
I just operate our family business, which is rental business, apartments, trailers, and the like, houses. And I managed that, and I made a living from that.
Okay. Thank you. And after your license was revoked in 2015, I think the pharmacy, Calmex Pharmacy, stayed open for another 2 years. Did you hire another pharmacist?
Yeah, I hire another pharmacist.
And can you describe the circumstances when the pharmacy license was revoked?
The pharmacist license was not revoked. I voluntarily surrendered it.
Okay, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Serpa, do you have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor, I have several questions. Mr. Odoyale, I'm a little confused by all the letters of submission. In reviewing the letters, there are quite a few, and they all appear to be dated from 2013 to 2014, which is before your revocation in 2015. Is that correct, or is there something wrong with the record?
Yeah, the record that you have is incorrect. We submitted everything new that were not even related to those previous ones on March 2020. It's just that they didn't give us a hearing date. They say it was due to COVID.
So I understand I'm sorry, go ahead.
So we have new records on file with the board.
So I understand you submitted them in March 2020, but the dates the letters were written, are they from 2020 also? Because the dates that I see show 2013 and 2014.
That is incorrect.
Your Honor, may I explain it?
Yes, Mr. Marks, please.
Ms. Serpa, there are some letters that are in the packet that were submitted in connection with the accusation hearing back in 2013, I believe. Those are also in the packet. I'm not sure why. I referenced one of them from the councilman, what's his name? John Renison, who was the mayor. I mentioned that one, but there are several letters in there that were submitted in connection with the administrative hearing. And then there's a separate set of letters that were submitted with a petition. So that's why those old letters have that, the other letters have that old dates on them.
Thank you. And a second question is to clarify your first disciplinary action that dated from, I think, 2006 it was implemented. And just to confirm, that was a revocation and 3-year probation in 2006, is that correct?
I believe it was probationary.
So you were given discipline in 2006?
Yes.
Okay. A couple more questions, just real quick. During the evaluation, DAG Pune remarked that some of the documentation that was provided was called into question as being, I don't know if he used the word falsified. Can you remark a little bit about the information you provided to the board during the inspection and during your subsequent hearings as to why they thought they were falsified?
No such subject ever came up. I think my counsel can testify to that.
It was my understanding that that was actually one of the causes for your revocation was something to do with the records.
I don't recall.
Okay, thank you. And then the final question has to do with the incident that occurred in the hospital with the oxytocin. There was quite a bit of documentation and testimony from your coworkers that called into question your evaluation at the time and subsequent testimony. So there were some comments that made it sound like perhaps there was some question about veracity and honesty in your comments and your research that was done at the time by your coworkers and in the record. Can you explain that a little bit more to us?
I think they digress from the subject of the oxytocin. My record through the personnel department and from all my evaluations, which my counsel received, gave me excellent review for all the years I worked in the hospital there.
I did see that, but I think what I'm referring to is that the technicians that you worked with that day suggested that you didn't do due diligence in evaluating your extension of the BUD, and the company stated that they were never contacted to evaluate the extension of the BUD. And my understanding is those are things that you had commented at the time that you had completed, but no one could verify that.
The company could, this was an emergency situation at 1 a.m. The company couldn't be contacted at 1 a.m. The hospital does not have another supply of oxytocin, and I could not, in good faith, let those patients bleed to death and have complication in delivery. And I did explain to the nurse that she has to use it that day. The pharmacy technician that you were talking about that came to the hearing did not work with me. I worked alone that night. It was intensive night. I managed the whole hospital by myself. My supportive staff left at 10.
I see. Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, Member Butler, any questions?
No, I just want to say that I commend you for all the work that you're doing in the community. The fact that you worked as a pharmacist for a whole year without pay I understand that in looking at the continuing education, what I'm looking at is that you've done 20 CEs recently, and there were 30 CEs you had done previously, because it seems that if anything, there's some record keeping issues that were there, and hopefully you've been able to take care of those issues. And again, I just commend all the extra things that you are doing in your community, and the fact again that I don't think I've ever met a pharmacist that worked a whole year for anybody for free. And so that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Member Sanchez, any questions?
Yes, I'd just like to also commend him for all his work that he's done with the community. And I know that it was August 10th, 2015, when your license was revoked. And, you know, you waited a long time for this hearing, 16 months, I guess, to be exact. And I'm glad you're able to do your presentation today. And thank you again for your service.
Thank you.
All right, Member Wise.
No questions at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Member Veal.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Odai, I do have a couple questions for you. One of them is, I know your attorney spoke to you about the probationary inspections that happened, I believe, after you were gone from the pharmacies, and you commented that they were good. But when those inspections occurred, you were not the PIC at those pharmacy, at your pharmacy. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the fact that the inspections went well was a reflection on the PIC of the pharmacy?
Yes, I was not there.
Okay. And one of the things we really look at when we talk to individuals, and appreciate you putting yourself in front of us to, you know, ask these questions, but it is rehabilitation. And one of the comments that I thought I heard you make was that you got into this situation because of the excessive work that you did, that you were working at the pharmacy as well as full-time job at the hospital. So did I understand that correctly, that the excessive work caused the situation that you got yourself in?
Yes.
Because it seems like a couple of those things that came up that our district attorney brought up and Dr. Serpa referred to were truthfulness issues. One being the falsified documents, and the other being the oxytocin situation. So how do you feel you have rehabilitated yourself around being truthful?
I am extremely truthful, Madam Board Member, and I appreciate the question. But when somebody's life is at risk, and I guess I have to make a decision of life and death. And I hope I don't ever have to be in that situation again. As you know, there's a lot of shortages of essential medications all over our healthcare providers, and still continuing. And God save me from getting into that situation again where I have no choice. I'd rather not let somebody die than to not. It's a very difficult, it's been between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
If I had not done what I did, I don't know what could have happened.
So in that case of the oxytocin, was it labor induction that the oxytocin was being used for?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't postpartum hemorrhages for inducing labor?
Both.
Okay. So I understand rock in the hard place with the oxytocin. We always have 20/20 vision post, after things like that. So I understand where you're coming from. But I understand that also the sixth cause for your accusation was around falsified document that the district attorney mentioned. And that did not sound like that was a 1 o'clock in the morning decision. So once again, how can you make me feel comfortable that you've rehabilitated yourself from providing falsified documents to the board?
It's just that this is one of those gray areas where medications are faxed to the pharmacy and doctors have multiple prescriptions on the same page, and they check prescription which they want filled, and we call the doctor. The doctors seem to be out of town, and the doctors verify them, or the agent. One of them was motoring, and we had to argue in court and present the evidence that it wasn't falsified. I seriously feel that the board inspector didn't do the due diligence to follow up on those things, but I accepted the consequence anyway.
Okay, thank you. And then you also mentioned there that you've been doing a lot of reading about pharmacy law. You even said you read the law book, so God bless you. But part of coming back to being licensed would be taking the NAPLEX and the CPJE exam again. So do you feel like you've done enough studying that you are adequately prepared to take those exams?
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for sitting in front of us and talking about your case. It's greatly appreciated.
The only comment I may make is that I've been through that process before, and with all these delays and COVID, the last time the board did that to me, they put a limit of 60 days to complete that task. And I don't think 60 days at this time will be sufficient. And I think that date of completion of that NAPLEX should be much longer than 60 days. It took me 16 months just to be heard when I submitted my records. So we're not in normal times now.
Thank you. I agreed. And we'll take that in consideration. Thank you very much for that comment.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Marks, do you have any redirect questions in response to the questions of Mr. Pyun or the board members?
Just to follow up on Ms. Beal's question, you are willing to take a NAPLEX or other exam as a condition of reinstatement, Saul?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marks. Do you have any further evidence to present?
No, we don't. We rest.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do closing argument and then wrap this matter up. Mr. Pyun, I'll let you go first, and then I'll let Mr. Marks have the last word since he has the burden of proof. So Mr. Pune, if you have any closing statements or arguments to make. Oh, are you muted?
Apologies, I was. Thank you for flagging that. I'll start over. Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I'll be brief. Just a few points I want to point to, and I'll give my take on what I heard today and what I'd like to flag for the board. The first thing I just wanted to point out for clarification, and I did want to confirm with Mr. Odiali that Philip Evans is the individual who wrote that reference letter, but I just want to point out, in case it wasn't immediately apparent to the board members, that Mr. Evans did testify as an expert on Mr. Odiali's behalf at the underlying hearing. His testimony was accorded no weight because he had apparently contradicted himself and there were issues with his testimony. Just wanted to flag that. In closing on, I'll just briefly say that in my view, I saw a few things that gave me concern, and most prominently, as the board members well know, this is about rehabilitation, and rehabilitation is quite difficult to achieve. A petitioner has a hard time showing that burden when they don't have what we might call full acknowledgement of wrongdoing. And I found troubling Mr. Odiali's response to my question about whether he felt that his conduct that led to the revocation of his license even posed a danger to the public, and that's kind of fundamental to what the disciplinary proceedings are about. And I feel that I couldn't recommend granting this petition in light of the fact that, from what I understand from Mr. Odiali's testimony today, he doesn't believe ultimately that he did anything that warranted, one, revocation of his license, or two, that posed any kind of danger to the public. So that viewpoint moving forward, to me, just spells out that he may very well repeat that conduct and find that there's nothing wrong with it. So that's my concern, and I just wanted to flag that for the board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Marks?
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, I know we can all agree that the purpose of discipline is to protect the public. It's not to impose punishment. And we're here because we believe that Mr. Odiali is not a danger to the public. He made mistakes, and one of them being perhaps trying to own a pharmacy for the first time and simultaneously working at a hospital pharmacy as a hospital pharmacist. He has suffered due to his mistakes and has sincerely learned from them. I didn't get from his testimony that he doesn't believe that whatever happened to him was unwarranted. If you do go back, and I'm sure Mr. Pune knows, our argument through the courts was not that Mr. Odiali shouldn't have been disciplined. A lot of the allegations were dismissed by the court. We came back to the board, and our argument was, okay, Mr. Ali deserves to be disciplined. He acknowledges it, but we think that probation with strict conditions would be warranted. And that has been our position. To bring it even further into the future, when we went back to court after the board confirmed the revocation, we argued that, wait a minute, I don't see anything in the decision that indicates why probation would not have been warranted in this case, particularly since there was no danger to a patient. These were mostly record-keeping violations, as we've noted. And then the judge in Superior Court, a different judge, said, yes, the board should determine why probation wouldn't be sufficient in this case to protect the public. And it never got back to the board. The Deputy Attorney General and the enforcement section decided they would appeal that. And the Court of Appeal ruled that there really is no provision in the law or the regulations that requires the board to do it. And I bring that up only because it's not Mr. Odiali says, oh, everything I did was fine. The whole issue in this case was revocation warranted, or was probation with strict conditions more reasonable? And that was my opinion. And I based that on 50 years of practicing pharmacy law, both at the Attorney General's office and in private practice. I started in 1971 at the Attorney General's office assigned to the Pharmacy Board. And it was my opinion, which I conveyed to him, that it was too harsh. The discipline was too harsh, revocation, that 5 years probation, strict conditions would have been sufficient. And that's what we were arguing about for many, many years. And I want to bring that up because it's not that Mr. O'Diali feels that nothing should have been done to him. He did everything perfectly. A lot of it was based upon he was not paying attention at the pharmacy as he should have been. He was working full time at the hospital, and he was letting the pharmacy run almost on its own. And he, as far as rehabilitation, he would never own a pharmacy again. He wants to work in the community because there's a shortage of pharmacists. He would be supervised. He'd be under the supervision of a pharmacist in charge of the pharmacy. And he, of course, will be monitored by the board inspector and maybe a correctional facilities supervisor if he does obtain a job with the Department of Corrections, which he intends to do. And apparently they need pharmacists. There's openings there. And being on probation will affect his being there. Solid knowledge of pharmacy that he's gained over 25, 30 years, and his reputation as a philanthropic, religious, and staunch supporter of his community and community activities all point to the fact that he can be an asset wherever he works. Be it community pharmacy, correctional facilities, maybe the VA, or underprivileged areas such as the Calexico area where pharmacists are needed. Truly a man, as was mentioned, who volunteers his time and pharmacy expertise at a hospital without pay for a year, simply because the hospital and community needed him there. Undeniably wants to use his professional knowledge and expertise and experience for the good of the public. And as the supporting letters reflect, he has earned high praise and trust from respected members in his community, as well as fellow pharmacists. These are people that know him the best. To think that, as Mr. Bune pointed out, we don't know whether we can trust him or not. These are people that know him and know his background, work with him, and in the pharmacy, work with him in the hospital, want him to apply at the correctional facilities. These are people that know him and can be relied upon, and that's the whole purpose of presenting these letters and witnesses. I think that Solomon deserves another chance, and I urge the board to give him that chance and reinstate his license. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marks. All right, this matter is submitted, and we will, and the hearing is concluded. We'll go off the record. Mr. President O, does the board want to take a break before the next matter?
I'll defer to the members. Members, anyone would like a break?
I would, even if it's 5 minutes.
Sure, let's take a 5-minute break, if that's okay with you, Judge. We'll be
Yes.
back at 11:11.
11:11, okay, thank you.